is the cognitive dissonance. It is that uncomfortable feeling when things don't go the way we experienced them, the way we expect them to go. And you're right. I always joke in my presentation. So the millennial generation is the best. And people will pick on us. People will pick on us because we were the participation trophy generation. And I always pause and I go, people, we weren't giving ourselves trophies.
In a world that often pulls us apart, More in Common brings us back to what matters. Hosted by Gerren Taylor and Keith Richardson, this isn't your average podcast. It's a challenge to think deeper, question louder, and grow further. At More in Common, we work with NFL teams, tech companies, and professionals across industries to improve communication and foster compassion. And with a focus on emotional intelligence, we aim to bring a wealth of experience to help you navigate the complexities of human connection. We've never been more connected and yet more isolated. We want to explore the roots of that tension and offer a way back to what we all need: real human connection. Enjoy the show.
Right? Should I pack gear and a snack?
Do I? Yeah. We need backpacks, water.
right.
Don't forget your lighter so we could start a fire.
Got it.
And a knife might be good for
Let's go.
any kind of utility. Yeah.
I was a Cub Scout.
I've got a
we're about to
spork.
go on.
Will a spork work?
I mean, it works everywhere, right? Like sometimes you need a fork, sometimes you need a spoon. Like, it's just reality.
I think I'm gonna make a jingle for a spork. Anyway, we are back, everybody. Welcome.
Hey, can we get Sporks to sponsor us? Is there a brand of Sporks?
Actually, not to take this tangent too far, but have you ever had a Nork?
A knife and a fork?
See, it's a fork with a curved knife-like tine at the end, so that you can.
So you don't have to use your fork to cut things. Like, talk about utility.
Yeah,
Time saver.
yeah. Talking about wanting some sponsorships. Yeah, I'll take another set now.
We'll make a whole episode about it. A little ASMR with it and everything.
Man, I'm onto this. Anyway, this is the More in Common podcast. I'm Gerren Taylor. That's still Keith Richardson and Kelly Brinkman joining us again. I think you're moving in. Are you getting a cot, Kelly?
Yep, I'm in. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm going to grab my coffee. I don't drink coffee, but, that's the cool thing to say, and I'm in.
It is the cool thing. You got all the energy. You don't need coffee.
That's true.
Kelly is got so many talents and has now been with us talking about generations for the past couple of weeks. And Keith was just last week ready to, I don't know, we were like exploding with topic.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing about generations. Like, a lot of our conversation thus far has been the expression of generations. 2 episodes ago, we talked about what they are, how it defines it. And then last week, we talked about its application at work, which is generally what the work Bridge Works does in the work environment. And I often find this with the work we do. The work environment is a nice controlled space where you can really tackle these things head on. It's harder culturally or in, community centers and things like that. But the reality of this is it's informed by everyday life. And I think so much about, now that I'm in my 40s, I've got young kids. A lot of the people I hang out with are just older parents. Like, that's kind of a thing, right? We don't have kids. You mentioned it. I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, right? My mom had kids. She was 25 years old, right? And, it was a whole thing. And we think about how this judgment occurs, right? This perception of the next generation, right? And we get cranky and crotchety, in part because of that discomfort of change, right? Like, we're forming our perspective that we're going to carry forever in a lot of ways. And that's done at such a young age. And then as we get older and we start thinking about, midlife crisis, like, your perception of life changes significantly. In the structures of life, we want to hold on to the things that make us feel safe. And then you see things that happen. Let's use one that I love to reference: is kids don't want to work today. And there is this journalist, I think, who wrote this article about a year or two ago, where he consolidated a whole bunch of publications, writing to letters to the editor,
Yep.
things like that, and went all the way back to, I think it was 1893, where there was a found comment in a newspaper or a magazine that said kids just don't want to work today, right? Like, it is this cycle. We talked about it last week, repeating this cycle. And so now I'm hearing my friends who are parenting children and coaching sports of children, because now they're 9, 10 years old. And you hear them say it. Oh, kids these days. I had a friend who just said it to me the other day. They don't make eye contact. They don't look at you. They don't do this and they don't do that. And it's like, we're creating all of these generations. Like, can we at least acknowledge that baby boomers created Gen X, baby boomers created millennials or Gen X are creating Zers? Like, we are creating a lot of the circumstances for which these kids are growing up. And then we judge the shit out of it. So how do we reconcile this as a social experience so that we have less judgment regardless of stereotype, and recognize, like, this is just kind of the cycle. This is what it is. And we don't have to necessarily even resist it. We should just be less mad about it.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
funny. So I'm going to deviate again a little bit of personal experience and personal interjections here, kind of outside of Bridgeworks. Number one, I know exactly the article that you're talking about because I've used it in
Yes,
my presentation.
I use it all
Like
the
from
time. Yeah.
1894 to 1916 to 1922 to, I mean, it literally went like every 20 years. There was an article from a newspaper that was like, I hired these boys to clean out my field and they just blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're
That's
right.
so
It
great.
is a
Yeah.
perpetuating cycle. Number two, I think one thing too is, our memories, again, this is me kind of pontificating, but our memories, I think, reframe things to be more idealistic maybe than they were, or our
So
memories
there
sort of,
is, it's called rosy retrospection. We have the tendency
yes,
to forget the negatives of the past unless they're traumatic. And we tend to remember more of the positive because
yes,
negative creates cortisol, stress, and anxiety, right? So what do we
yes.
want that for? Yeah.
Yep. So, and the other thing is kind of in combination with that is like, again, it's this idea that we have these rutted brains that have this instinctual cognitive framework that tells us this is what is right. This is what is expected. This is what is, how work should look. This is how behavior, interaction with an adult should look. And now I'm talking to this kid and he's not responding the way I expect him to based on my experience. So he's wrong or he's terrible or he's a little brat, right? And I'm saying that tongue in cheek. Like it is the cognitive dissonance. It is that uncomfortable feeling when things don't go the way we experience them, the way we expect them to go. And you're right. I always joke in my presentation. So the millennial generation is the best. And people will pick on us. People will pick on us because we were the participation trophy generation. And I always pause and I go, people, we weren't giving ourselves trophies. Like
That's
it was
what
our,
I'm saying.
yeah. Like I wasn't trophies when I was 8. Like
Yeah.
my parents were going, you're a winner because you tried,
I showed up
right?
to the pizza party.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
Like, what
Like,
did I do? What did I
yeah.
do? Yeah.
Like kids are out in the outfield, like eating grass, and we're like, "Way to go, Bobby! You tried," you know. And now it's like we expect different behaviors. Like we expect them to show up at 8 years old and be like an Olympic disciplined athlete. And it's like, do you remember eating dirt and like doing cartwheels? Like this is kid behavior. And yeah, they don't have eye contact, but part of it they have grown up. Maybe they grew up I have a friend who had a baby during COVID and she's like, I do feel like even her infant, she's like, I feel like my, 2 to 5 years old, she wasn't having the same social interactions as other 2 to 5 year olds. And she's like, I think that affected her because, she first went to preschool and she was like biting everybody at preschool. And it's like, and maybe her kid's just a jerk. No, I'm kidding. I love you, Emily. But no, the point is like, right? Like number one, we have our framework. If something is different, it's uncomfortable. Number two, we remember things a little bit more idealistic than they actually were. And number three, things change. The only constant is change. And the environments that we grew up in with, again, from Woodstock to TikTok, have been very, very different. And so we can't expect the same behaviors, the same traits out of a generation that has grown up in a completely different environment. That it just doesn't make sense.
But
That's
also
trying to,
to his point, and your point's like,
yeah, it's like
if you're
trying
mad
to
at the kid for
plant a palm tree in Minnesota. Like it's not the right environment. Like the environment is completely different. It will not survive. It
Oh,
is
good
different.
analogy. Yeah.
I'm pretty good at that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Go ahead,
it's like that's
And
Keith.
I
what I do
kill
for
a lot of
marriage
Interject,
and
plants.
stuff. But like, you can't be
Plants.
mad at the kid for
I've
wearing a
tried
Nirvana
this
shirt and
palm
not
tree
knowing
in
the band.
Minnesota
It's like,
thing.
Yep.
it's your job to show the kid Nirvana. That's how else are they supposed to find the band? You know what I mean?
Yes. Again, I'm not a parent, but like how in the world are you supposed to control social media for your child? Like that is a juggernaut experience, right? And every kid is experiencing it. You can try to limit screens and you can try to put protections on and you can try to do this and you can try to do that, but the reality is they will be exposed to it unless you hide them in a dark room and never let them out, because they'll go to school and their friends will have social media, or they'll go to their friend's house and they'll record a TikTok of them dancing together. Like it is, these certain things that we're saying are affecting this generation. You can't help, but they're going to be exposed to it and it's going to have an effect on them. And like you said, unless you sit down and work through some of that in a more profound way. And even when you do, their brains are only going to be able to conceptualize and absorb, a certain amount of teaching versus experiencing it every single day.
There's something you said we talk a lot about cognitive bias, and that idea of naive realism is the world is as I see it, and anybody else is shrouded by judgment bias, external influence. It's such a common thing that we go through. As you're talking, like I'm thinking, going back to the last question I asked in last week, like private equity is getting into youth sports now. And so it's making youth sports even harder, more competitive. Like, and you think about that formative time and what it's going to be when they're in the workforce, right? Like that, I can't imagine how those kids are going to grow up relative to that. And I think about this whole ecosystem of what we can do, because there is this underlying hypocrisy of it all, or dissonance I should say, is we always want our kids to have better than we did, and then they do and we judge the shit out of them for having it, right? It's like,
Yes.
we gave that to you, right?
Yeah.
Like we're making this space for you. And I think a lot about this conversation, and what's really getting very clear for me. And when we think about the psychological experience of people, that does not change.
Mhm.
Middle schoolers are mean. Like that's just normal. When we were in middle school, they were mean. When Christmas Story and Ralphie, when the kids were mean, right? Like they just are mean, and now they just have different tools to do it. And as I think about bringing kids up, thinking about the formative developments, 0 to 7 is emotional development, and 13 to 17 is social development. It's giving them the tools to navigate that human experience, because to your point, you can't control the environmental experiences that they're a part of. You can only give them the skills to be to navigate their psychology that finds its way through whatever it is that they've experienced, so that they can grow up mature, navigate conflict, manage the circumstance and situation and the stimulations and whatever else it is, because you give them that resilience rather than just going,
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Right.
Yeah. Well, and you're totally right where you're saying, like, I can't imagine this next generation. We're already seeing it manifest in Generation Z. Like, they have been talked about as the most anxious generation because, again, expectations are set so high, right? Like, I have to be perfect. I see all this social media perfection and achievement and success. And this 10-year-old is making $10 million unboxing toys. Like, why is nobody signing up for my YouTube channel, right? Or there's a Netflix series about this kid who is a dancer and blah, blah, blah. And so they have this fear of being judged. They also grew up during the COVID time where there was a lot of separation. So some of those soft skills that they need to navigate and have conversations and difficult conversations and process emotions aren't necessarily equipped the same as previous generations are equipped with because they were not in a vacuum in a quarantine. And we also see sort of this hesitancy to speak up for fear of being judged. Because again, exposure to social media, you get
Judged
yeah,
all the time.
none of us and that's another thing, like, if you're parenting and you're trying to have a conversation about cyberbullying, I don't know how you would do that because you never had to experience that, and so it is a difficult issue to navigate because you're trying to teach about something that you have not experienced, and that's a very difficult position to be in, and I don't think a lot of kids are equipped with the language to express exactly what they're feeling or why when it comes to some of those stressors, some of that anxiety, some of that depression, some of that. I mean, we're seeing some of the highest instances of burnout in Generation Z is reporting burnout in the first 5 years of their career. I mean, that is unprecedented in previous generations. And some people will argue, well, it's because they're more vocal about it, or again, they don't have the stamina that older generations did, or the work ethic of older generations. And it's like, but if you are in mental chaos, if you are in a depressive state, if you are in a constant state of agitation, how can you perform? That is not a mental weakness. That is how their brain was developed and the cycle that they're spinning through constantly in terms of being judged. Am I performing high enough? I don't know exactly what I'm doing. How do I anchor myself? Who do I go to? If I go to them, am I getting judged for that? I mean, it's this sort of like spiral that a lot of them are reporting that it's not, again, it's not a competency. It's not a work ethic. It is a result of the stressors they have gone through as young people, and they've been a lot.
Is there a practical framework we could put on that? Like, if you were a Gen Z employee frustrated, how do you frame that? Or if you're a boomer manager and this is your Gen Z person and you see those signs of burnout coming in that employee, and you're like, okay, how do you have that conversation?
Yep. So one of the biggest things I have seen in research is being a approachable, effective tool for not only attracting, retaining, and developing Gen Z is setting them up with formal mentorships. Whether it's a millennial, a Gen X, or a boomer, it really doesn't matter as long as they have that sort of guiding. Again, it's a coach. It is someone there where they can bounce off ideas. You give them psychological safety to say, you know what? This is your time. We're going to meet once a week for 20 minutes, and this is going to be your time. Ask the questions. Tell me what you're experiencing, and then give them feedback in a way that feels non judgmental, in a way that feels accepting, in a way that feels like you are really trying to build a genuine connection, because that is really what a lot of Zers are looking for. Like, I want to be accepted for me. I want to be able to be my authentic me with my hopes, with my fears, with my, questions, with my concerns, without fear of judgment, without fear of repercussions, without fear of people thinking I'm a bad worker or I'm a bad, this, that, or the other. So I think any kind of mentorship, like I said, it doesn't have to be a baby boomer who has 30, 40 years of experience. It can be a millennial who has experienced the same sort of thing 10 years ago, where they were the new kids on the block and they were feeling judged and this, that, and the other. I think it's really creating that inclusive culture.
Love that. That tip. And I wanna, uh, there's this thing that's rattling around in my brain relative to this. It was a long time millennials were, and we kind of worked our way out of it to now be, hey, it's the greatest generation, just like baby boomers used to be the greatest generation. This, as you're talking relative to this social experience for Gen Zers that is anxiety inducing, I think going back to even just the original point, recognizing we should all, like, I would love for it to be that we all recognize the journey over the last 50 years that is culminated in this generation having this experience. I was reading this research article recently about the addiction of devices in social media, and one of the things that it drew based on all kinds of is essentially a meta-analysis, but not. It was an article that devices and social media aren't addictive. They're often a coping mechanism. They're often a coping mechanism for a misplaced coping mechanism, just like alcohol can be used as a coping mechanism or any
Yes.
other drug for this rise in anxiety. But that rise of anxiety hasn't just occurred out of nowhere. It's not
Right.
the fault of social media. It is the fault of this. You brought it up, the baby boomer competitiveness. So now I've got to set my kids up to compete. And so that anxiety starts to kick in. And then it's now we go to school to be part of the machine because college, you have to get into college. And then you have, right? And like all of these little pieces and big pieces that have come in, and that my friend said to me one day, he goes, my parents are the last generation of content.
Yeah.
They're the last generation that can sit and go, I just want to watch the game at the end of the day. Because what are we doing, even as millennials? It's like, I woke up this morning and I had 18 things to do and it's Saturday, right? And it's like, what more can we fill our space and time with? And and we weren't formative in social media, but
Yeah.
we were formative in that development, the got to go to college and got to get the best grades and you got to do all of these things or else you will fail.
Yeah.
You will not be able to feed your kids. And all of these things are just, it's a continuation. And somehow we've got to be able to learn from all of this knowledge and awareness that we have now so that the next generation is not
Yeah.
primed to succeed financially, but is primed to excel emotionally. But that's
Yeah.
my soapbox
No.
there.
And I think you're right because, I even think about, you watch anything on TV like the Super Bowl or this, that, or the other, and what is everybody doing? They're holding up their phones and recording, like watching it through the phone. It's like just take in the experience. Or, people, in the baby boomer culture, it was like, I gotta have the big house and the car and the white picket fence to show people I'm successful. And now it's like, I have to share all, my feet in every airport in this, country. And I have to, like, I have to show all these grand experience to prove to people that I'm a success and this, that, and the other. And like you said, it's not helping anyone. It is stressing everyone out. And same with, like you said, the child rearing situation. Like I coached junior high track for like 10 years in an affluent community, a suburb of the Twin Cities area. And I would have seventh grade girls come up to me and be like, I'm only going to be at track once a week because I have violin, I have JO volleyball, I have swimming, and I have math tutoring. So it's like every one of their mornings, I'm up at 5:30 to go swimming. And then I, come to school and then I have math tutor until 8. And then I have cello until 9. And it's like, when are you a kid? Like, and again, it's a weird dichotomy of like, we want to achieve more and we want to achieve better, but like, we're doing the reverse. We're just stressing everybody out and then we're perpetuating this culture of stress instead of a culture of connection. And like you said, I don't know the answer to like how do we cut that off because it's so entrenched in us now. Like you said, even as adults who haven't gone through this as a formative experience, like I'm checking my work email all the time. Like my boyfriend will tell me, like, it's 8 o'clock at night. Why are you responding to an email right now? And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like I have to. If I don't, then I'm not, I'm not a good employee, right? Like it is this innate development that I've learned as an adult because I had the capability that I didn't have before. And so it is this weird perpetuation. And like we talked about last time, I don't know if there's a way to stop the snowball once it's going
That,
because it's been going like this for hundreds of years.
that's
Right.
definitely the boomer
And
in you because I do
yeah.
not hours emails. Honey, that's gonna be
you
tomorrow.
Yeah, behind the scenes, you roll in at 12:34 for a 12:30 meeting. Let's be
Yeah.
real.
Might happen. It
I
might
don't know.
happen. I got that work-life balance thing going. This is why we
Yeah.
need reverse mentoring too. Because
Yes.
the Gen
Yes.
Z people need the ones that can maybe just take it down a notch. Just
I
get that.
know. I know. It is, the human condition is uh, it's undefinable. It is indescribable. And again, as the world gets more multidimensional, that's just creating more dimensions of confusion, conflict, and like you guys are trying to do is like find common ground to connect, because there's so many ways that we can break apart from one another these days that it boggles the mind. But if we can find common ground to say, you know why are we doing this to our kids, or why is this the reality of this situation, can we do something about it, and actually taking steps, or even opening the conversation about it could be so beneficial. And I don't think we're just taking the time to do that as much as we should.
And it's definitely the best way to bridge the gap is by having.
Yeah.
It's the only way in some ways,
Yeah.
right? To actually really get that true understanding and true alignment amongst each other.
Yeah.
So as we wrap all of our time together, first I want to say, I'll say it now, is thank you. But I'm curious if you, in the lens of generations, in the lens of everything that we've discussed, if you were to think about, a feet one, two, maybe three very distinct things that people can take away and put into their daily life, what would those things be?
Gosh, that's a great question. Um, and they're gonna be so basic, they're gonna be so simple, because that's just what is
That's
in my
and they
heart. Yeah.
have to be, and they
Yeah.
have to be.
Yeah. I think number one is patience and acknowledgement. Like, even in a day to day, not from a generational lens, like, you never know what someone is going through,
Mm,
right?
meet people
So
where they are.
yes. So in those moments when they disappoint you or frustrate you, or, you know, act a fool, like, take a moment and realize you don't know where they're coming from. Like, they could have just come from a devastating moment in their life. And so don't be so reactive in the moment. Just take a beat. Number two, I would think, acknowledge that differences exist and don't just assume that they're bad. Difference does not have to equal bad. And that's how our brains are wired. Like, I'm not saying that it's like I'm perfect at that, because I will get frustrated. Like, why are you writing a check in 2026 at the grocery store? Like, why, Lord? Like, I will, but like, take a beat and be like, this is a person who has gone from an icebox as a refrigerator to a world where, like, you're Jetson phone calling people on your watch. Like, like, it is a lot.
Yeah.
And then last, I think just having some like humility and grace in your day-to-day behaviors, because I think there are always moments when we're like, well, I would never do that, or I can't believe so and so did this, that, or like, how dare, it's like, we are human. Like, that is the human condition, right? Nobody is going to be perfect. The best we can do is try to practice behaviors and actions and reactions that we hope become good habits instead of negative ones. So having a little bit of that humility and grace in your interactions with people, I think, regardless of what the situation was, what work, personal, somebody of a different generation, of a different culture, of whatever it is, I think we need that grace and humility now more than ever.
Ain't
Yeah.
that the truth,
Like,
though?
Yeah. Yeah.
ain't that the truth? I
Yeah.
got to tell you, I have thoroughly enjoyed this time in these conversations. Super informative, super fun. And as we've gone through, one of my favorite elements of this entire conversation is how fluidly your Minnesota accent comes out from time to time.
Don't you know we're gonna take the
Don't
boat
you
out,
know?
okay?
Oh, and it's like, oh, nope, oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah. It's so
So,
See,
good.
funny
listen,
story. I went to college in Iowa, and even the Iowa kids would tease me about my Minnesota O's. It's like, come on, you're like 50 miles away from the border and you're teasing me? Come on. But you know what? It's one of those things as I get
That's
older,
so good.
you know, you learn to
You
appreciate the
just embrace it.
differences. It is what it is. I
I would
is what
never
I
talk
is.
that way, though. I would never talk that way.
Is this gonna be like a Midwestern battle right now? You guys are just having a Midwest off. I'm over here in California. Like,
Y'all ain't ready for this.
this is why I don't do cold weather and I don't do accents. I was kidding.
Well, no, thank you.
So
I
good.
have enjoyed my time as well. I could sit and talk all day, so I appreciate you giving me the platform to do so.
It's definitely been a pleasure. And, you know, all the things that we've learned, ultimately, and just like you said, it all comes down to the point that we're all in this together. We're all stuck together. So we might as well figure out how to do it better as opposed to being assholes.
100. That should be your
Amen.
t-shirt slogan.
Yeah.
Print it,
yeah,
sold
should be.
out, done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This
Sport,
is
sport
the More
shirt.
Common Podcast, y'all. I'm Gerren Taylor. That's Keith Richardson and Kelly Brinkman. Thank you again for being a gracious guest and letting us take up so much time of yours.
I'm here all week. No, I'm just.
Have fun, everybody.